the basic assumptions of both of them, there's a contradiction between them.
If that doesn't mean both can't be true.
No, but they both can't be absolutely true. So what scientists are trying
to
do,
alter both of them to work together, yeah.
Well, at the moment they realize both of them are non-complementary paradigms. You can't make them work. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to come up with a theory of quantum gravity.
Yes.
Right? Now, when it comes to evolutionary biology, I would have loved it if I was taught in school. Do you know what? There's this idea of Darwinian evolution, but do you know what? There's also the idea of Lamarckian evolution, mutationism, natural genetic engineering. But we're just told this is it.
Yeah, actually, Lamarckian evolution, I think there was a little bit of, but not much.
Do you know what it's normally taught as?
It's kind of taught as the other theory that was wrong. Yeah.
Yes, and the interesting thing about Lamarckian evolution was Lamarck published his work about 50 years before Darwin.
Yeah.
The difference between Lamarck and Darwin, Lamarck was someone who believed in God but not religion. He was a deist. So he didn't see design as an illusion, which is the main conflict between God and Darwinian evolution, that the claim that design is an illusion, right? Now, Lamarck's theory has been brought back to life in the last couple of years because of epigenetics, right? And because of we've seen that, you know, that famous drawing of the giraffe.
Yeah.
It keeps trying to stretch out its neck, and then those changes are passed on to its offspring.
Oh, so that's
Lamarckian.
It can do
it's an intentional thing, right?
It can do, yeah.
Yeah. We've actually got some recent experiments which have shown Lamarckian evolution is observable, right? And how many generations that goes down, that's another question. That's something they're going to be exploring. But what I didn't like...
Just to confirm, Lamarckian evolution is the one where it's like it wants to extend it next, so it does.
Yeah. It's a conscious... It's basically like the blacksmith's strong arms.
Yeah.
The blacksmith, he has these arms, then he procreates, and those children inherit those traits.
Okay.
Now, the inheritance of acquired characteristics, as it's known, was an idea which was ridiculed.
Okay.
Now, why? This is where I disagree, because I believe that if Darwinian evolution was taught, not as a religion, not as a meta-narrative, but was taught the way that Darwin actually proposed it, which was a theory which had anomalies, which he admitted to. He admitted there was other theories possible on the data. And lastly, he also admitted something which we're not taught, which is you can be someone who believes in God and believes in Darwinian evolution, and there's absolutely no contradiction between the two. Neo-Darwinism, which came around in the 1940s, was militantly atheist, right? Which was put together by mathematicians, by the way. And this was used as a baton to bash religious people for the last 70 years. And that's the real crux of the issue.
Okay.
And as a mathematician, maybe you should do something to change that.
maybe. I mean, in my perspective,
You've heard of JBS Haldane, right? JBS Haldane? He's one of the founders of Neo-Darwinism. He's a mathematician.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's all these different theories. They are taught they are taught as the kind of theories that were wrong. But I think you kind of have a want. So you kind of have a want to reintroduce these theories as
not
more
myself.
of a true thing.
I don't want to do that, because these theories, especially things like evolution by natural genetic engineering and evolution by self-organization, these are new. And these have been introduced by atheist evolutionary biologists.
Maybe when they're better tested, they'll be taught.
Well, they are actually tested.
Well, maybe when they've been tested over, Darwinian evolution is an old theory, and it has stood the test of time, and there's not many.
One of the reasons it stood the test of time is because of the philosophical naturalism that is used to underpin it. Because it's used as a way. Because look, if there is no God, this is from a neo-Darwinian perspective, if there is no God, then nature has to do the creating, and design has to be an illusion. If that's the basis, then no matter how many holes are in the theory, which there are a lot of holes at the moment, this theory will still stand because it's the only naturalistic explanation out there at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is why it will survive for the next 1,000 years.
To be from my perspective, I would say as long as the theory is underpinned, because I would say that design is illusion, and everything has to feeds naturally and all the natural selection and everything.
No,
As long as it's based on that.
Why would you say design is an illusion?
Because I don't think that it's possible. I don't think that there was a God who just went poof and everything was there.
Well, look, let me give you an example, right? The idea of instant creation. In the Quran, just to give you the Islamic perspective, because I'm not sure if you come from a Christian background.
I don't come from that.
In the Quran, God says, when I intend to create something, I say be and it is.
Yeah.
And in the Quran, God created Jesus by saying be and it is. But Jesus was created over a period of 9 months. So we don't necessarily believe in instant creation. There may be a naturalistic mechanism that is discoverable in some way or shape or form, in some limited capacity. But the basic idea that design is an illusion is only possible if someone subscribes to the idea that Darwinian evolution is absolutely true. And I think there's no reason to believe it is absolutely true. But I think there's lots of reasons to believe it's speculative, it has assumptions which are being challenged, and it has lots of alternatives.
Maybe that's true. Yeah.
And what you don't want to do, Luke, right?
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is, you have a short life, I have a short life. If we are brought up with this idea, if we're socially engineered with this idea that everything that looks designed is actually an illusion, I think that's a type of child abuse if you're brought up with a belief which is patently false.
I think you could say that about things, mainly religion.
You can.
You can say that about the indoctrination of everyone who is brought up with a religion.
If the religion's false, yeah, you can.
Yeah, but if the religion's false.
But this we know is false, because this is something.
No, we don't.
No, we know it's false, that it's absolutely true. We know it's a model.
Okay, no. I would say no. We don't know that it's absolutely false.
Because nothing in science can be absolutely true.
No, that's untrue. That's
so what's something in science? And I'm not talking about observations. I'm talking about theory.
What theory is absolutely true?
There can be no theory that's absolutely true.
But yes, but you're okay. So you're using the fact that nothing can be absolutely 100% provable to try and prove your own clouded religious theory.
No, I'm not. What I'm trying to do
because
is this.
You can say that. No, I can't say that there is a theory out there that is 100% true because it's
that's
all
not the way
based on
science
evidence.
works.
But I'm saying that there's a point that you get to where you say, okay, we have enough evidence. Can we just move on now?
You don't do that in science.
No.
And I'll tell you why you don't do that in science. Science is based on induction, is to take observations and come up with general ideas about those inductions. Yes. Now Darwin, and we could take neo-Darwinism today, we've got all these subfields in biology and they all have data. Using that data, we have this theory of Darwinian evolution and there's other alternatives. We can always get the possibility of new data which will challenge the previous conclusion, or a reinterpretation of the existing data, which is why people like Thomas Kuhn, who's a philosopher of science and a physicist, he wrote a book called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, and he said, you have these paradigms in science which, because they've been reconfirmed so many times, they become into a type of religious structure. Now, it's very hard to look outside of the paradigm, but what starts happening is, as you have anomalies which keep gradually increasing, you have to have a change in worldview. Okay. Now the anomalies to Darwinian evolution were first pointed out by Darwin himself. Yeah. Today, those anomalies have only increased. You know Darwin, what he said about the appendix?
Yeah.
Right? He said it was a rudimentary vestigial organ. And that was true for almost 150 years, and we've discovered in the last couple of years, it's no longer considered a vestigial organ. It actually has function. So
it had.
No, it has function. Darwin thought it had function.
Since when? Wait, when did we?
Just a few years ago, about 2009, 2010. We discovered it does actually have function. Its function is to flush the body with good bacteria after cases of cholera, right? So after extreme cases in which all of your good bacteria gets out of your body, it is a safe house for bacteria to hide in, and then they can get flushed into your body. Secondly, it works in the development of young adults, right? We know of at least 2 different functions. The problem with Darwinists is when they take a scientific conclusion and then they say, that's it, we've worked it out. And I'll give you an example of where I disagree. You might have heard of the idea of junk DNA.
No. I mean, my
Okay,
opinion,
but
I have different views.
if you study evolutionary biology
Yeah.
from Darwinian perspective, they also talk about this idea of junk DNA.
Okay, yeah.
Junk DNA, that 98% of our genome, we didn't know what it was doing. So it's considered junk. It was considered a living fossil, if you like, a record of our ancestry with apes and fish and whatnot. And because we didn't know a function, some people in evolutionary biology were very vocal. There's no point of looking for a function because we know that this is a evolutionary byproduct. People like Francis Crick, the one who discovered the structure of DNA. Now he was an atheist and evolutionary biologist, and he said, don't even bother looking for a function because there's not going to be a function because it's an evolutionary byproduct. In 2012, we had the Encyclopedia of DNA Elements, which published studies, which showed most of what we thought was junk is actually functional.
Okay.
And you see, what a Darwinian assumption about the certainty of the theory held back science for many years when it comes to discovering that those areas that we thought were junk DNA, it will actually help us to help people with things like diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So what I like to do is I like to just say, if somebody wants to believe in Darwinian evolution as a valid model theory paradigm, I would say, absolutely no problem with you. But if someone was to say it's true, I would say, wait. Science doesn't lead to truth. Science leads to workable models.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Okay, I would say that Darwinian evolution is a workable model.
Yeah, so would I. So is
Well, then we have
Lamarckian-
nothing to argue about.
but the difference is, I would also say Lamarckian evolution is a
I would
model.
say it's a less workable.
Well, why would you?
Because there's less evidence for it.
No, but how do you know there's less evidence for it? Because there's no, look, let me just give
there's
you,
less evidence that we have for it.
okay, let me just put it this way. I'm going to give you 5 different subfields, and then I'm going to say to you a statement, and you can challenge it or you can leave it. Here's some different subfields. Biochemistry, anatomy, genetics, linguistics, and psychology.
Okay.
I could use these 5 fields, and paleontology and sociology, right?
Yeah.
7 fields. I could use those 7 fields and say Lamarckian evolution is just as empirically equivalent as Darwinism. I could do that. Because, for example, to take linguistics, Richard Dawkins says language evolved to help us deceive each other, right? Survival of the fittest. Classical Darwinian idea. But I could use that same idea of linguistics and I could say we acquired language with a sort of intent, which is what Lamarckian evolution is about. So I'm not saying Darwinian evolution is invalid scientifically. I'm saying it's valid, but so is all the rest. And it's not absolutely true.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, fair enough. Maybe not. I agree with your speculating with it. It's always good to speculate. I just choose to believe what the kind of general rule is in
So
things
did
that
I.
I don't understand.
So did
Yeah,
I.
but
Until I looked into it,
you
and I
know-
was like, hang on a minute, this is very different to what I thought it was.
Yeah. Okay.
And how old are you now?
18.
18. I'm 32, so you've got another
You know
14 years.
Yeah. See, I'll see you then, and then I'll.
No problem
I've
at
got
all.
a little bit
I
more
mean,
education under my belt.
The main thing is,
Yeah.
in life, the way I think about it is this. Someone can have a PhD, someone can be a professor, but no one has the monopoly on thinking.
Yeah.
We all have brains.
Sure.
And ideas that we may believe to be true, and we may be certain that they're true, they may be falsified in the future, and we need to be brave
Yeah.
enough to...
Well, maybe yes, but I would choose to. I kind of have a trust in science that I can in things that I'm not an expert in. I would say.
We all do.
Yeah,
We all do.
I wouldn't. It's why on the practical thing. I was like, when everyone asked me about it, I was like, I'm not an economist, and I don't know that I have my view on it, but I wouldn't advise anyone. It's the same thing. I don't.
It is, but the difference is
wouldn't-
this: because there's a fault line
Yeah.
between Darwinian evolution and theology, which is to do with the
Yeah.
illusion of design. This is something that is worth researching into, because I'll give you one example in the human body. You see, if all over our body we have these veins, right?
Yeah.
We have capillaries, we have arteries. Yet there's one part in our brain where there's a leakage of blood. Now that blood, it comes into the brain and is tested for chemicals, for toxins. And if there is found to be toxins, then the body creates a reaction to expel that foreign agent. Now for me, that shouts out design. But for a Darwinist, he would say natural selection. And natural selection is a blanket for anything. It's just a label for a mystery. Now, since there's these two paradigms that we're looking at the same evidence, it is worth me and you, Luke, to actually look at the evidences for both. And that's all I'm trying to open out. I'm not here to say you're wrong. I'm not here to say I'm right. I'm here to say, let's open out the discussion and let's not be socialized into it. I was socialized into it, to be honest. When I was your age, I was just like, well, they know what they're talking about. But when I grew older, I decided to challenge what I was socialized into.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we will agree.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, because science has always followed what the evidence presents to it, and maybe you're not looking in the right places. Maybe not. But I personally don't believe that science is in a place at the moment to accept any sort of God, like any sort of.
Well,
I mean,
it's
even
how and why.
You
see, science explains how things work, but not why they exist.
Yeah. Well, yes, because we're not at that point yet. Because we've explained many things as science, but explaining that why we're here and what that's a very complex issue, and we've come up with a theory of how it happened. Why it happened is a much more complex issue.
Yeah,
and
like if you imagine that car over there, right? I could explain the fuel that goes in, combustion, axial, wheel, lift, drift, drag force. I can describe all those things.
Yeah.
Now, Luke, imagine if I described all those things, and then said to you, therefore there's no designer. You would say, hang on a minute, there's a how, which is what you explained to me, science, but there's a why, which is metaphysical. So science is neutral when it comes to God. Science doesn't say there is a God, science doesn't say there isn't a God, which is why the claim which I like to challenge is when Darwinian evolution or anything else in science is used to say, therefore there's no God. Because I believe that's a category mistake.
I haven't ever come across anything that says therefore there's no God.
Well,
I've never ever.
Have you heard of the God delusion?
Yes.
Okay. The central argument in the God delusion.
That's Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins, right?
Yeah.
The central argument in the God delusion. Remember, Richard Dawkins is not.
Okay, maybe there is one, but I subscribe to a feeling that it's disprovable. It's not disprovable.
Exactly.
But for me, no proof or the absence of disproof doesn't mean a proof for me.
Of course.
I think that's all we're going to get, and I need to go home. So
no problem at all. But I'd like to give you a gift. You're only 18, so this is a small portable Quran. The thing about the Quran is, we believe truth can be arrived at if someone uses their reason. We don't believe in blind belief.
Yeah.
So one of the claims the Quran makes is this: do you not think, do you not reason, do you not reflect? Now, I ask you, I could be lying to you for the last hour. Everyone in the world, they could be deceiving you in some way or another, right? But one person who will never deceive you, or element in your life that if you're sincere, you'll never be deceived by, is your own ability to reason. Now what the Quran does is this: it says, leave aside your society, leave aside your forefathers, leave aside what you desire yourself, and look into the truth using reason. And if you use reason as a criteria, the Quran says you will reach God. And that's something that we can agree, even if we don't agree on God, we can agree reason should be the arbiter for truth.
Yes. Okay. Whether I reach God from that is a different story.
Well, you ask for guidance, isn't it?
Whether I do is a different story.
You might be joining us for prayer next time.
Maybe I will. Who knows?
Take care. Yeah?
Hey, you too, mate.
It was good speaking to you.